You are now tuned in to the Dads Who Lift podcast. Please give us a like, share, subscribe to the YouTube account. We are on www.dadswholiftofficial.com. All the podcast links are in there. We also have an apparel line that's taking pre-orders right now. We're on IG as Dads Who Lift Official handle. We're on Facebook, Dads Who Lift Podcast. We also have a Dads Who Lift fitness group on Facebook that's Dads Who Lift Official. A group of 30,000 like-minded dads that are just trying to be their best selves and staying fit. If that's something you're into, please check it out. But we do this stuff for free, guys, so please give us a like, share, 5-star review. We really appreciate your support. You are now tuned into the Dads Who Live podcast. You have your host, Tyler Gaeta.
I'm Joel Staley.
We have on special guest, Nick Langer, BR Physique's Baby Rhino. We've had him on the podcast before. But this is kind of a special time, so we wanted to have him back on. He is right now in the middle of show prep, basically, and he has a documentary about the whole time that he goes through prep. And we were just talking pre-podcast, but you just did a show here, a local show here in town, and killed it, won the overall. Now you basically have 7 weeks left to go to nationals to get your pro card, right?
Correct. Well, North Americans. So that is one thing that I want to correct because I see this said all the time. So one of the biggest things and probably one of the biggest pet peeves for any bodybuilder that's going to be doing NPC bodybuilding, IFBB bodybuilding, whatever it might be, is there are different shows. North Americans is one of the shows that's a national level show.
Okay.
USA's is a national level show. And then there's actually Nationals, which is a show that's in Miami. So the one thing that a lot of people say is, I'm going to Nationals. No, you're not going to Nationals. You're going to North Americans, where you can get a pro status.
Okay.
You're going to USA's, where you get pro status.
Right.
Or you're going to Nationals, which you can get pro status at. So, sorry, that's just a pet peeve.
No, that's good, man. I don't know. We're not versed in all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to have you on. There's always guys. Number one, it's interesting. It's crazy. And number two, there's always guys in our group, our Dads Who Live group, that are talking about doing a show. How do I get into a show? Where do I start? What's it entail? This guy right here knows probably better than anybody that I know about what it takes to get there.
Probably way more than I probably would ever want to know.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So you're on. So let's talk about your documentary.
Yeah.
How you started that? How many weeks you've gone by so far? I think there's 7 weeks left.
Yep. So we started that. The reason why I started that was I wanted to kind of show everybody the insides and outs of a bodybuilding prep. And I also wanted to show everybody that I'm a father, actually father to our second child that's about 3.5 months old now. I run 2 businesses. I'm constantly on the go, constantly doing something. And I wanted to show that you can still do a bodybuilding prep,
right, and
balance life and balance family, and show also that you don't have to be a prick to everybody around you while you do it.
Right.
So, it was the process of the other aspect of it was this for me is a redemption prep. Anybody that's actually watched the episode, there's one where my wife talks about last time, and it was one of those things of, she gets really emotional about it in the aspect of we had a sit down right after I won my overall at the last show. And, we sat down and
this was the last time you competed 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah. And what happened was I didn't realize how big of an asshole I was being to everybody around me. And anybody that's done a prep.
Very natural.
Yeah. Anybody that's done a prep.
I'm not even on your level of prep, and I can still be an asshole when my calories and carbs get low.
Right. And so anybody that does a prep can kind of relate with that and understand that, right?
But I didn't focus a lot of the time, right? Like you just have that tunnel vision on that goal.
On that goal.
Tiger.
Yep. And so, a lot of the times what happens is that everybody around you gets the end of the stick, right?
Yep.
And so it was one of those aspects of I didn't even realize it until after the show had done. And 2 things happened at that show. What happened was my brother came down and he drove from Omaha to Dubuque, which is about 4-hour drive or something like that, or 6-hour, whatever. It's a long drive.
Yeah.
He drove there for the morning show, came to the morning show. We went out to lunch and I made some comment, and I don't even remember what the comment was.
Took you long enough to get out
or
here.
Something, right? And I made a very, very asshole comment, And then he kind of went to everybody that was around me and was like, has he been like this the whole time? And everybody's like, yeah, we've just been dealing with it because we want to make sure that he wins and everything like that.
We want to support him.
Right.
Yeah.
And my brother's like, fuck him. Right. And he just goes, okay, fine. And he drove right back home. He didn't even stay there for the finals, nothing. Right. And so that was one. And then the second was, I got done with the show and we all celebrated and whatever. We get back to the hotel room and me and my wife are sitting there and, she basically said, listen, if you ever do this again, we probably won't be together. And that is the first time that I've gone from feeling really fucking proud of what I was doing to all of a sudden being in tears that night. Right. And so this was
an eye-opening moment.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's
and this was
probably a pivotal moment in your life.
Exactly. And so that was like, okay, that was part of the reason why I took 3 years off from competing.
Yep.
At that time,
and you did win overall on that show, too.
Yeah, won the overall, which is great.
Yep.
Awesome, cool. But at the end of the day, when I looked at it, I'm like, it's a fucking trophy. Right. And it's just an overall. It's nothing. It's good. It's awesome. It's a life achievement that a lot of people won't do.
Right.
But at the same time, it's also one of those things where it's not enough for me to
lose
give
yourself
up my family.
And lose your family. It's not worth it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of stepped back. At that time, I had been taking way too much on my plate because that was when we just opened up Iron Heaven Gym. That was when we were I was just transitioning out of Rex Use Nutrition into full-time training. I was doing a lot of life transitions. Mm-hmm. And so my life actually wasn't congruent with what I was trying to do. Right. And so I took 3 years off. We've had our second son. But in that 3 year time span, and this is something I try to get across to everybody when they would think about competing, is the aspect of your life has to be congruent with competing, right? Your life has to be able to actually work with the process of dieting down and having the support system there to understand what's going on, and also be able to keep your schedule around it in the aspect that you're getting enough sleep, you're getting your food in the right times, you're getting your workouts in, you're getting everything in, right? And so typically the things that people don't think about are emotional stress, financial stress, the outside stressors that are going to affect a prep.
That's what I was going to say earlier before you actually just said that, is watching your videos, because I've been watching the documentary as it comes out this year. Watching the videos, your support system is amazing.
Yes.
You have all kinds of friends around you, family, your wife. It just seems like it's very set up for you to win, set up for success. And I think that's what you're talking about. So It seems like I wasn't around for the first one, but it seems like that wasn't the case.
Right. Well, and it was
not on them,
right. Yeah,
but I just mean as far as the balance in your life.
More so I wasn't balanced in what I was doing. Right. Yep. It was, I had all the support, and I'm very lucky and very blessed that I've always had a very good support system around me. The issue was that I didn't have my shit together.
Yep.
Okay. And that's the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize is if you go into a prep, you can have all the support you want to around you, but if you don't have your shit together, you're going to be in a bad mood and you're going to destroy all those relationships. Mm-hmm. And that was something that I realized and was an eye-opening experience.
Because this shit's like 90% mental.
It's if not more.
Yeah.
If not more. I mean, the body can do pretty amazing things. It's just you're going to have to understand that you'll get psychological side effects from running low calories or running your body into the ground, and trying to pull the sub 4 or 5% body fat is not good for your body. It's not meant to happen. Your body's not meant to be shredded like that.
Yeah.
If you're seeing striations in places that you've never seen them before, you're going to have to do some gnarly shit to get there.
Right.
So yeah, it's one of those things of understanding that we have to have the outside aspects in line with it.
How did you get to that place this time, I guess? Because I'm going through a thing right now where I'm not competing. I'm nowhere near what you're doing, but I am doing a fitness. Well, Joel and I are both trying to do 75 hard.
Yep.
And so
doing 75
we are doing 75 hard. And compared to what you're doing, that's like nothing. But I've got a full plate. I raised my son by myself. I've got multiple companies, and I quite often bite off way more than I can chew.
Yep.
And 75 hard at this point in my life, a lot of people don't even know this, but Joel, I took over the Dad to Lift apparel line, so I'm running that completely without him. So I'm doing all these things by myself now that Joel was helping with this company and all my other companies and my son on top of that, and then I bit off 75 hard on top of that. And I'm stubborn as fuck, and I'm going to complete it. I'm not going to stop. But I definitely find myself, not getting to all of my things. I mean, I'm working till 10, 11 o'clock at night. and it's definitely daunting.
Right.
To where I feel what you're saying, because I don't feel like I'm balanced right now. I feel like I'm running myself into the ground, and I'm just going on pure grit to get it done.
Right.
You know?
And I can tell you, even as a coach, and I'm sure he could tell you the same thing, is when we're looking at like a client and the results that they get, 90% of the clients that get outstanding results is because of the fact that they aligned everything around the goal. Right. And so they made the goal a priority. And so you have to have a give and a take. Something has to be let go. So, for instance, and I'll give you a prime example. This prep, I had conversation before I even started the prep, before I started the documentary, everything, with Tim Rexius, my business partner, and Steve Lerner, our manager of the gyms. And I said, listen, guys, I need you to understand something. Number one, I don't plan on doing anything crazy expansion-wise for these gyms until I am done with these preps. Right. I'm not going to take that on my plate.
Right.
Because I understand it's going to be too much stress. The other thing is I'm going to lean on you guys for the next 14 weeks to do me a favor and take over a lot of the responsibilities for the gym, so I can take a step back and I can focus on the things that really I need to, which is this prep and also my clients, their preps, and also my businesses. You know, those are the things that I care about. Those are the things that I need to be paying attention to right now. The day-to-day operations that go on with a business.
So you made room.
I delegated. I made sure that I made room for the goal that was at hand. And I think that's something that people that's where I made the mistake in the past.
I definitely didn't make room. I just add on top. We can handle it. You're
not the only person. And that's what I did with the last prep. When something that I learned, I was like, fuck, okay, I'm not a superhuman. Right. I can't take all this shit on.
Even though sometimes I think I am.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, and it's, then it allows for you to be consistent. And when you're consistent, you reach your goals. If you can't have that consistency, you're never going to see the goals achieved, because you're spread between 30 fucking things. So you're going to be doing 30 things at 75% rather than 4 things at 100%. Right.
I feel like there's a dichotomy, though, because like 90% of the people in the group that say they've been thinking about doing a fitness contest have been saying that same shit for 10 years, and they'll use what you're saying as a justification of why they're not. Oh, the timing's not right. Like, you just had a new son, right? So they would say, oh, I need to help the wife with the baby. So they'll make excuses to themselves. So how do you know if you do have an okay enough balance to take this on, and because I'm a firm believer in there is no right time, whether it's starting a business or just doing anything great. So what are the checks and balances of like, can you take this shit on?
So that's the thing, is what are you willing to make a priority? That's all it comes down to. And what are you able to what are you able to have your circle around you help you make a priority, right? So if it's to compete, then you have to be open about that. Hey, I want to compete. Okay. If I want to compete, what steps do I need to take to make sure that goal can be achieved? And what steps can I take to make sure that I can do it at 100%? Right. So there's never a right time. Realistically, having a 3-month-old is not the fucking right time. I mean, we all know what it's like to have a 3-month-old. Okay. You're waking up at weird hours. You're helping out mom all the time, so on and so forth. Right. So that's not a good fucking time to do it. But my wife was on board with this. My wife has understood from day one what the plan was and what we were doing. When I'm home, I do everything I can to help. I'm still the dad. I still take care of our 3-year-old, and I still take care of our 3-month-old, right? So it's one of those things of that relationship is what has allowed me to do that. And you have to understand that if you want a goal to happen, everybody that's around you, your support system, has to be in alignment with that goal as well. And then your life has to be in alignment with those goals. So it makes it a lot easier when we have that aspect. So it kind of gets rid of the bullshit excuses of, well, it's not the right time. Well, it's never the fucking right time.
No, you make the time. Exactly. But what I'm hearing is that you have to plan it. So, the initial, the guys in the group that have been saying, I want to do a show for 3 years, a lot of that is bullshit. You just have to make the choice that, all right, I'm going to do it. But that doesn't mean that if you make the choice, I'm going to do it, you have to do it right now.
Correct.
You can say, all right, this is something I really want to do. Let's plan for it. I'm going to start in 6 months, and I'm going to get this stuff ready in my life and balanced out in my life so that I can set myself up for success.
Correct. And that's one of the big things is okay, so what does it take to compete, right? So I have pretty much 3 main stability things that I look at when I look at people and tell them, yes, you're ready to compete or not. Number 1 is nutritionally wise, where are you at? Are you eating enough food? Are you at a point where when I start to diet you down, I can actually diet you down? Or are you eating 1,200 calories a day and there's no fucking way I'm going to diet you down?
Right. Yeah. Is your metabolism fast enough?
Metabolically, are you where you need to be?
Yep.
Number 2, financially, are you where you need to be? The one thing that people don't understand is that these shows are not fucking cheap.
Especially if you're traveling.
Especially if you're traveling, especially if you're in the NPC and you're doing extracurricular supplements. I mean, everything adds up. So I'll give you a rundown. I did junior nationals in 2014. I sat back and I looked and I did the math on how much I spent on one national level show. And this isn't a national level show that really matters all that much because you can't get a pro card at it as a bodybuilder. Junior nationals, one show, it ended up being about $3,500 is what I spent on that one show.
Jesus Christ.
One show. And I placed 11th out of 25. Okay. So just so that everybody understands, financially, one of the biggest stressors that everybody has when it comes to competing is the financial side of it, because of the fact that they don't understand the costs until you start getting into it.
Right.
Not only do you have the over-the-counter supplements, you've also got a tan that you got to pay for. You got a card that you got to pay for the organization. You got to pay for the
travel expenses.
You got to pay for the show itself. You've got all sorts of expenses that pile up here. So financially, your ass better be set, and you better have a really good cushion. Because the other side effect that you have to think about is when you're dieted down and your brain's not working correctly, I can guarantee you're not going to be as good at your business. So if you own your own business, you're going to end up losing some business. It's going to happen. So financially, you better have that cushion there ready.
Do you feel that much mental lag when you get that lean?
When you get that lean, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Obviously, I've never been that.
I'm lucky. I'm lucky this time around. Up until last week when we went into peak week, I really didn't have too bad of issues with it. Last week, I could barely.
Cloudy.
Yes, very cloudy. It's just
shit. I get that now. I'll walk into the pantry. What the fuck did I walk in here for? You know?
Yeah. Or like mid thought, I'm like thinking about something and I completely forget what I was thinking about.
Space it out.
Kind of like the nutrition, financial, and we never got the third thing. So we literally just did it.
So thank you. And then if we're looking at it again, the third thing is going to be the easiest one, or not the easiest one, the hardest one that people come to, which is everybody around you in the same mindset, and are you in the right mindset to actually do a prep? So when it comes to a bodybuilding prep, we have to understand that you're going to put your body through things that you've never done before, especially if you're trying to get to a body fat that you've never been. Your body will literally fight tooth and nail, and it will start to psychologically screw with you. And in that aspect, you will start to have some sort of irritability with the people around you. You're going to have irritability in general. You're going to have brain lag. You're going to have all sorts of things that are going to come from this. And so you have to understand that from a mindset standpoint, you know that you will execute 100% even when it gets to the hardest point, which is that last 6-ish weeks before you really pull down to that.
What is that percentage when you go on? Like, what are you going to bring to the stage, you think, for your pro?
Realistically, okay, so, and that's another thing that I hate, because everybody's like, oh, I'm 6%. No, you're not fucking 6%. Realistically.
Oh, dude, I see that shit all the time.
I know.
I'm like,
so.
No.
Most of the time, majority of bodybuilders will step on stage somewhere between 4 and 5% body fat. And 4 and 5% body fat is like striations and glutes completely cut in and everything, right? That is about where a bodybuilder is going to sit. There's been about 1 or 2 bodybuilders that have gotten lower than that were pros, and one of them died from kidney failure after it happened.
Holy cow.
So your body literally can't go like, oh my God, I'm 2%. No, you're not fucking 2%.
Yeah.
Stop that. So that's
you can start seeing abs. I mean, most of these guys that have abs, they'll sit there and say they're like 7 or 8%.
Dude, I have
under
abs.
15. I would say you can see some abs.
Usually, I'd say most of those guys are like 12 to 15.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, in my off season at 260, I have abs and I'm like 16% body fat.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
So abs aren't the definition of low body fat.
Right.
Low body fat is if you can literally see cuts and striations in muscle tissue that you've never seen before, like for instance your glutes, because majority of people hold a lot of body fat in your glutes. You're probably closer to about that 4 to 5%, realistically. Everything else, no. Maybe, I mean, majority of like your men's physique guys.
To get a real test, you have to do like a pinch test, don't you?
Pinch test is actually not even accurate.
Really?
What's going to be the most accurate for you is going to be either a DEXA scan, which basically scans your whole body. It'll give you skeletal muscle tissue, it'll give you water, it'll give you all of it. DEXA scan or a water submersion test. Those are going to be your two kind of best gauges. The other one would be like a bod pod. Will also give you a good idea, but typically DEXA scan and water submersion, which are both pretty much medical grade ways of testing body fat.
I want to get into the nuts and bolts of your sleep, training, subs, all that, but we were just talking about mindset, and that's, like you said, more than 90% of it.
Yeah.
So what is your driving purpose? You've already competed. Like you said, you have a lot of stuff going on right now, and we were just talking about you need the mental focus to really hone in on those goals. At the end of the day, what is it that keeps you, like on your docu-series, you're eating cold chicken and asparagus out of a Tupperware when everyone else is having cake and ice cream at a birthday party.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, what is your driving purpose? Why do you do all this?
So my driving purpose is honestly, it's an internal drive more than it is anything else. Bodybuilding is a thing that for me is not so much about what I bring to the stage. It's about the journey of getting there. And it has always been a mental journey of how far I can push my body. And so for me, it's just kind of, it's a sick and twisted way of pushing my limits and seeing how far my limits actually are. And so what drives me literally every day is I can be better. I know I can be better. So if I can be better, I better execute 100% so that I know I bring exactly what I need to bring to that stage in all aspects. And so I'm a person that's super fucking competitive, and I'm more competitive with myself than I am with anybody else. And so every single time I've done a show, I've always driven to be better than I was the previous show. I've always driven to bring something that I never even dreamed I could do, because at the end of the day, when I look back at it, I'm like, fuck, I did that. That was cool. Like, I'm impressed with the amount that I was able to do. And it then triggers something else in me that goes, well, we could do more. We could be better, right? And so it's just this, it's in my personality. It's who I am, in the aspect that I just always want to conquer, and I always want to kind of push myself further than I've ever done before.
You're like me in the sense of the fact that you don't want to hit that peak and know that, like, I know when I did my the first show, I was like, all right, this is the leanest I'm going to be. This is the best I'm ever going to look. And as soon as that show was over, it was like 2 or 3 days of just fucking eating like shit. And then it was like, I was almost depressed. Like, okay, well, a lot of people peak in high school. I wasn't in high school, but right. I'm like, all right, so like, is it downhill from here? Like, when am I getting stagnant? So now, just like you, I have a fear of, okay, am I getting better? Am I staying stagnant? Am I getting worse? Where am I at?
Right.
Well, and you've been like that forever. You went through in your and you go through in your docu-series about how you used to play football, a lot of head injuries.
Yep.
And so it was the same way with football.
Yeah.
And then I think it's really cool because it goes through it, and we'll obviously plug the documentary, before we're done here. But you had to kind of refine yourself.
Yeah.
Because football was your life. Football
Yes.
was who you were. So then it was, what do I do now? And that's when it came into the bodybuilding.
Yeah. So, I think from an early age, and actually there's a part in the docuseries where my dad talks about me, and he's basically like, listen, he wasn't the most talented kid in the world,
right.
which is true. But he goes, he will give 110%
Yep.
in every fucking thing he does. And what he doesn't have in talent, he'll make up for in hard work. Mm-hmm. And that's something I've always prided myself on. And it's the same thing. That's the cool part for me when it comes to bodybuilding is I'm not like, there's genetic elite in bodybuilding. And I know for a fact that I am not genetically elite. Okay. But I can tell you right now that I will outwork any motherfucker that stands next to me. And that's where that comes out from.
Yeah.
That's
right?
what people don't get too, is because this isn't basketball where you go to a 2-hour practice every day and you're working 14 hours of the day. No, your sleep, your nutrition 24/7, your training. There's no time off. It's a full, like, not even full-time job. It consumes your entire life.
Yeah, it's your life. It's your life. So, especially this is the kind of caveat to that is, when we're talking about a prep, those 14 weeks or 16 weeks or whatever it might be, it's 24/7. You are in prep. And so everything has to revolve around that. So my eating revolves around that. My training schedule revolves around that. My sleep revolves around that. I'm controlling all of the factors that I know I can control in order to bring what I envision. And, Unlike other sports where, you go and you compete and you have a game and then now we can go out and party and then we go right back to practice. It's not the way this works. It's 14 weeks of grueling fucking work and you don't get a time off. You don't get to back off. You don't get to give yourself a break. You do, and somebody else out there has been grinding for 14 weeks without a break. And that's where it comes down to who is actually the best, is who can deal with the bullshit for the longest in order to bring something that nobody else will stand on stage with.
I'll say this too. So I've competed 4 times now. First time I competed, I had a meal plan from Sean Harley. I had like a refeed day, ate like carb cycling, all this stuff. I followed the same meal plan to a T for 12 weeks. And then my dad picked me up to take me to the show because he wanted to be he was my backstage guy. He was my oil boy.
Yep.
And he's like, well, how do you think you're going to do? And I was just in the zone. I was like kind of stoic. I was like, even if I place last, I know that I did hit all my workouts. I did everything within my control that I took no shortcuts. So when I got up on stage, I embodied that, just the confidence. I just felt it. Second year, I took some shortcuts. I had a couple beers with buddies. I was like, all right, I took some shortcuts.
Yep.
Missed a couple days in the gym. And then even before I got to the show, granted, I wasn't as lean either, but that wasn't even it. It was, I was driving to the show and I had that little tickle of doubt in my mind, which meant I was already done. And I ended up placing 5th out of like 9 guys. Mm-hmm. So just the fact that I had 95% of the time I was on, but that 5%, 100%. I knew in my mind, which was all it took to beat me. I already beat myself before I even hopped on that stage. I knew like, no, this isn't like last year, dude. You did take some shortcuts. You're fucked.
Yep.
So you got to be on all the time.
I want to point out something you said too that was really cool. You said not only do you have to be ready, but you have to make sure that your circle is ready, that you're surrounded by the right people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's something we say a lot on this podcast, is that you are the average of the closest 5 people that you keep around you. So if you can be 100% ready physically, mentally, but if your circle's not in the same arena that you're in, they're still out getting pizza or inviting you out to, drink or whatever, it's not going to work out.
Correct. Yep. And, going back to that, that's a conversation I have with every one of my clients. Is anybody that wants to compete and they come to me and they're like, I want to compete. Okay, listen, I need you to understand something. And this is the conversation. You guys probably saw Paige's transformation that she had.
Oh, dude, her transformation's crazy.
Crazy. Paige Miller, she was a client of mine literally 13 months ago. The
craziest thing, not to interrupt you, but I remember seeing her first pictures when she was still like looking the first way.
Yes.
And now she's here and I'm still like, I put on some muscle, but I'm nowhere near her transformation. And that's one of those things that it's great. But it's like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
She could do that in this amount of time. Like, what have you done?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I've been there through the whole thing.
Yep. Yeah. So 13 months, basically, she started out about 200 pounds. We got her all the way down to about a 124 on stage and she was diced. Right.
Yep.
But her and I had a conversation, and it was a sit down, and I told her straight up. I said, "Listen, the mentality that I have on this is it's the same reason why I have a coach, and me as your coach, I need you to understand something. If you don't look the way you should on stage, it should never be on your shoulders. Okay, which means if I give you a plan and I say do this workout this way, do this cardio this way, do this meal plan this way, get this amount of sleep." And you execute all of that 100%. When you step on that stage, you don't have anything to fucking question except for what I did. Mm-hmm. My biggest goal in my mind, and it's the same thing that I do with the guy that I work with, is I go, listen, you give me a plan, and I'm going to execute that thing to a fucking T. There's not going to be one missed session. There's not going to be one missed minute. There's not going to be one missed meal. There's not going to be a deviance, nothing at all.
Not one extra almond.
No, because the fact of the matter is...
That's what it takes, too. That's a crazy thing.
But the thing about it is, it's one of those aspects of, if I can say that the entire fucking time I did this, I did everything to a T, it takes all the blame off my shoulders. If I don't look right on stage, that was your fault. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my fault. And I know for a fact that I work with really educated, smart motherfuckers, much like, not to toot my own horn, but I know what I do is the right way, in my way. And I know that if it's executed to a fucking T, the end result will be exactly what we're looking for.
That's why I don't think people actually realize how much this shit takes. Like I'm working with a coach as well. And when I started with him, I was, push pull, trying to get on the same page, trying to get my mentality right. And he's got a big guy that he trains that you're buddies with.
Yep.
And that was the thing that he said. He actually was getting kind of pissed at me one day, and he's like, "You want to know how he looks like that? That motherfucker will not have one fucking almond. Not one off the plant. Not one fucking almond. It doesn't happen. It's not even a question in his mind."
Correct.
You want to look like that? Do this.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Not one little fucking deviant. I don't think people realize, like, to get to that level, you can have some deviations and look decent.
Yeah.
But if you want to get to the level to compete and be a pro and do what you're doing,
right,
it takes extreme. I mean, you
got to think about it this way: to be a 1% of the fucking population, you've got to do what 1% of the population does.
Right.
Right. So, if we're just talking about getting 6-pack, like we talked about, if we're just talking about getting a 6-pack, sure, you can fuck off. You can do 80%. Realistically, you can do 80% of what somebody tells you to do and still get a 6-pack. If you want to be the absolute elite, you better do every fucking thing to a T. Exactly. Yep. Everything has to be done to a T.
So you're working with Dominic Mustachio, you said, right?
Yep.
Or Dom Slice,
Yep.
What is it?
Dom Super Slice.
Dom Super Slice.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talk about the importance of having a coach on this podcast a lot. As a matter of fact, I have a call with a sales coach on Monday. I have a feeling he's going to rake me over the coals, which I'm kind of looking forward to. But just to increase my sales closing rate. But I wanted to get into what you were talking about as far as, or what your coach has you doing, as far as it's got to be more than just have these calories, have these macros every day. What's he looking for in terms of like sleep, subs, nutrition? Does he have you log in your volume as far as training goes? What are you reporting back to him?
So the cool part about this prep is the relationship that I have with Dom is much more a partnership than it is a coaching and client aspect. And I say that in the aspect that he gives me a plan, and we have a plan that we're going to execute, and we have nutrition-wise exactly what we're going to execute. But I've been doing this long enough that I control the training and basically create my own training programs and send them to him to look over, to get his input on it and tweak however it might be. It's also the aspect that we're quite literally talking every day. And so it's different in past experiences where I've worked with coaches and it's been like, okay, do this plan, follow it for a week, get back to me in a week, let me know what's going on. Whereas with Dom, it's pretty much every day we're going back and forth. How are you feeling?
Checking in every day.
Yep. How are you feeling? How's digestion going? How's hunger? How's strength in the gym? So on and so forth. All of that stuff is literally being dictated day by day by day, which is very intensive. And I can tell you right now, 90% of coaches won't do that because of the fact that it takes a lot to stay on top of somebody like that. But for him and I, it was one of those aspects of we both come from the same kind of cut in the aspect that we're both coaches. We both deal with athletes all day long. We understand what's going on. I'm already thinking and doing what he's going to tell me anyways before we do it. So it works really well. But as far as sleep goes, I actually monitor my sleep. So I get about between 7.5 and 8 hours every night.
What do you use to monitor?
It's called an Aura Ring.
I've heard of those.
Shit.
So the cool thing about this is it's got little sensors on the inside of there. I replaced my wedding ring with it. My wife was happy about that. The cool thing about it is
on the right finger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The cool thing about it is it tracks sleep, tracks if you've gotten REM sleep or if you've gotten deep sleep. It tracks body temperature, it tracks heart rate, it tracks HRV, tracks all of that at night.
Wow.
So do you even have to check your HRV in the morning still, or you just look right on it?
This is it. So literally just an app in my phone. I pull up the app. It Bluetooth links to the
I'm gonna have to get one.
I'll have one of those by the end of the day.
I'm gonna have to get one of those. Look like I'm married.
And the cool thing about it is, so there's other ones that are on the market. There's the Whoop band.
I was going to ask if you used the Whoop before you said that.
Yeah. So there's Whoop
that's
band.
Cooler, I think.
The Whoop band is cool in the aspect that you can wear it during your workouts and you can track everything during your workouts. Obviously, I can't wear that with this because I'll destroy the ring.
Right.
But I'm not super concerned about that, only because of the fact that I know what I put out in my workouts, so I'm not super worried. But the cool thing about this is that it tracks overnight. So you can literally see a graph of what your heart rate did overnight. You can see a graph of what your HRV did overnight. You can see your body temperature overnight. You can see all of it.
Does the Whoop one do that overnight too?
Whoop one will give you an average, but it doesn't, and it'll give you some of the data, but not all of the data that this one does. The other thing is more and more research is coming out that to get your best HRV reading is either on your fingers or directly on your heart. your wrist isn't
That's why
as accurate.
I always did the band when you
Yep,
had
the
me to
polar
it.
10. Yep.
Does it have, I think it has to be the marriage finger too, right? Because isn't that the one that has
It's
like
the only one that has a heart rate to it. Yeah.
Does it?
No, I don't know.
I think that's what,
I was
no,
bullshitting.
I've read that.
Okay.
Can they say you can put it on any finger? Or do they recommend that finger?
They haven't said. I haven't seen that. In
You guys are going to make me look like I'm married all the time now.
Because which I heard it's a chick magnet, so it'll be only good for you. But I heard that's why, and obviously I could be wrong, but I heard that's what's the significance of putting this ring on this finger is that's like this is the finger that the vein actually goes through your heart, which could be bullshit, but sounds cool.
I have to look into it.
Yeah, I honestly don't know all the anatomy things. That's one thing that I don't know. So that's what I use for that. But so I consistently will get between 7 and 8 hours of sleep. So I have a bedtime that I go to sleep right away. I'm back up.
9?
And what's that?
9? About
9:15. Yep. So we put our son down about 8:15.
That's when I try to be in bed, but it never works.
Yeah. I've made it part of my schedule.
Yeah, you got to.
So about 9-ish, 9:15. And then as far as like cardio and stuff like that, that's all day to day. So we do have a plan of, okay, let's do this amount. And then we're checking in twice a week, actual check-ins with pictures and weight and all that stuff, typically Wednesdays and Saturdays, just to see how my body's trending. The thing about my body is, and Dom will tell you this, and you'll see it in this week's episode, he'll tell you straight up that my body is one of those freakish bodies that can literally change in like 4 hours. And so, it's one of those things of I have to constantly keep an eye on everything. For example, on our peak week, going into the show, Thursday to Friday, we probably took in, I would say, somewhere between 700 and 900 grams of carbs, right? I went to bed. Yeah. I went to bed at 224.5. I woke up at 217.1. So overnight, lost about 7.5 pounds, right?
Jesus.
So that's the thing that we have to look, and that was prior to a water manipulation. So we hadn't even pulled water. That was just what my body was doing at that point in time. And so we have to keep a really close eye on how my body responds. And so that's the same thing as I'm dieting down throughout each week as we get closer to this show, is we really have to pay attention to that kind of stuff. And that's why we kind of do day to day as far as all of that goes. And then aside from that,
does your diet change daily too then?
So my diet, yeah. So actually the way that my diet works right now is we're doing one low carb day, one high fat day, one high carb day, off day, so on and so forth. So it rotates like that.
What's on the off day?
Off day is low calories. So that's lower carb, little bit moderate fats, and then protein.
What's the reasoning behind having a day for basically every macro? It seems like kind of.
So actually that's something that I've started doing with a lot of my clients as well. And I've noticed that a few things here. Number one, the different energy sources actually helps out with how you're feeling as far as just overall. When you run a very low fat, higher carbohydrate, which is typical bodybuilding diet, is low fat, moderate, high carbohydrates, and high protein.
Egg whites, chicken breasts, and white rice.
Correct. When you run that kind of a diet and diet somebody down in that direction, what ends up happening is your cravings go through the roof, your hormones get kind of out of whack, and your body just kind of fights everything. When we rotate in between dietary fats, carbohydrates, and then a mixture, whatever it might be, what we're ended up seeing from that is my mood's a lot better. Satiaty's a lot better when I've got higher fats. And we're also seeing water manipulation a little bit, because obviously with lower carbohydrates, we'll see a little bit more water getting excreted throughout the day. But we'll also see hormones staying a little bit more stable. When you pull dietary fats down to like 10%, which is what I've seen with a lot of bodybuilding diets, what you end up seeing is a lot of those intramuscular stored triglycerides or fatty acids or whatever it might be get so depleted that you end up getting flat, really, really, really flat, right? And you also get to the point where you start to crave, because your body wants those macronutrients. So you start to have really, really bad cravings, which makes you irritable, which makes you not want to be around anybody. And so, by doing this manipulation where we're doing high, low, high, low, high, low, or low, low, high, or whatever it might be, we're allowing the body to still be on lower calories, but not limiting specific macronutrients, which allows it allows your body to kind of stay a little bit more stable as far as from a hormonal standpoint and not be all over the fucking board. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's beneficial just to not do the same shit every day anyway.
Right.
Because even like
your body guessing.
I've talked about protein fasting before, which any fucking bro who lifts knows the importance of protein. Get as much protein as you can, but there's actually studies that show that if you just take a day off every once in a while, pull your carbs and fats up, then your body's going to utilize that protein way better the next day when you do reintroduce it back in. So I would assume that carbs and fats are the same way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's different. It's all it is energy sources, right?
Do you do any fasting?
I don't do any fasting right now. The only fasting I do is when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
Again, from a metabolic standpoint, I don't need to.
Right.
I have a very, very high metabolic rate. You got to think in my off season, I'm eating right around 6,000-ish plus calories.
Jesus. Where's your maintenance right now then?
Maintenance, if I were to make it so that I wouldn't lose, I'd have to be probably closer to like 4,200, 4,400.
That's crazy.
I'm typically right now in this dieting phase. We're somewhere right around between 3 and 3,500 for me dieting. When I was in peak week, that was about 2,300 is what we got down to. And that was just for 5 days to really drain me all the way out, get rid of everything that was in my body, and really kind of pull me in as tight as possible prior to loading. So, but typically I can sit somewhere between 3 and 3,500 and lose weight with ease. My body's kind of I'm lucky.
That's where I'm trying to get, man. We're adding calories every week. I'm up to like 2,800 now.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I spent 3 years in a caloric surplus.
See, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and you do it correctly, you're going to build lean muscle tissue. You're going to get your metabolic rate to a point where you're burning through calories like a machine. And then when you go to diet, you don't have to kill yourself to diet down. I mean, that's
the whole point, right?
Yes. Yeah. You got to think we're at a point now where we are probably 5 pounds of body fat away from like the absolute leanest I want to be for stage. And I'm only doing 30 minutes of steady state cardio.
That's crazy.
Right. And I'm still eating over 3,000 calories a day. So it's one of those things of I've trained my body to a point where
it's crazy how the body adapts. Cause like I'm adding calories every week. And my strength's going up, but my body weight's staying exactly the same. We're adding calories every week. And every week that I do drop weight, I'm happy about it. And then coach is like, oh, nope, time for more food.
Correct.
I'm like, fuck, man. I just want to lean out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but the goal is to get your metabolic rate to a point.
Then it's easy to lean.
That it's easy to get lean.
Yeah. I mean, if you're eating 3,600, which is where I think he wants me to be to maintenance at like 36, but you're eating like 3,600, 4,000 calories a day at maintenance, then you're able to drop down to 25, 26 and drop weight like that.
Correct.
Opposed to if you're maintenancing, like before I was maintenancing at probably close to 2,400.
Right.
So then it's like you got to drop down to 2,000 to barely lose anything.
Right. It's the same exact principle that I use with anybody that comes to me for competition prep.
Yep.
It says, listen, what are you eating currently? Okay, if you're a girl and you're eating 1,400 calories, listen, I'm not putting you through a prep.
Yeah.
You've got, realistically, if I look at you, you've got 20 pounds that you need to lose. I'm not going to pull 20 pounds off of you and put you on a 900 calorie diet and 3 hours of cardio like some of these coaches will do in order to bring you all the way down for a show shape. That's stupid. No.
I don't even think it sets people up for failure. I mean, I don't even think it sets people up for success.
No, it doesn't.
Not only are you going to kill your body, but it's kind of unrealistic.
Well, and you also have to think you're going to destroy hormones. You're going to destroy, you're destroying their body, and you're making it so that they're going to literally have probably 2 or 3 years of rebuild to get themselves back to a point
Plus
where
you're
they're
just fucking
normal.
that metabolism even more.
Yep, horribly. So, there is a rhyme and a reason to this, and there's a reason why.
It just sucks that it takes so fucking long.
It does.
I'm sitting here like, man, it's summertime. Fat boy's trying to look good in the pool. Let's go.
I get it, man. But the thing about it is you got to think about the long-term vision here, right?
At least I look good with the shirt on.
Yeah.
At least I got that.
That's all matters.
Hey, I did want to talk to you. So HRV is something you talk about a lot. I hired Nick for like a month just so he could kind of explain HRV to me and see what supplement recommendations he could recommend. When you are in a constant calorie deficit now, you're doing cardio more often than not, I would assume, or you're throwing some in, you're keeping your training volume up. How do you limit your HRV from being in a spot that isn't conducive with training?
Yeah, so this is actually a pretty cool thing. So my HRV and my resting heart rate. So my HRV has actually gone up as I've gone through my prep.
Wow.
And my HRV has actually, or my heart rate has actually gone down. So I'm averaging right now between a 40.
Which is good. That's what you want.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's why my body's been responding as fast as it has. My heart rate's averaging my resting heart rate's averaging between 45 and 52 in the morning. and my HRV is averaging somewhere between 90 and 120.
And that means your body's not stressed.
That means my body's chill.
Yeah, which is good.
So there's a few reasons why that's happening. Number one is sleep. I'm actually getting the adequate amount of sleep for my body to recover. Number two is the aspect of some over-the-counter supplements that I'm taking. So in that aspect, it would be because I will tell you personally the
magnesium.
Yeah. But I will tell you personally the extracurricular supplements that are not over-the-counter typically will tend to do the exact opposite to your heart rate and your HRV.
Stress,
high blood pressure.
Right. It'll cause all sorts of issues. Whereas it's not this time around. And that's because of the fact of, like I said, number one would be the sleep. Number two would be I use a few things to help mitigate stress. So ashwagandha is one that I use. It's huge. It's great. Ashwagandha. KSM 66 is the one that you would want to use on that aspect. It's a specific type, but
those just vitamins.
It's just a vitamin.
Okay.
Yep. So I take 2 grams in the morning, 2 grams at night, and it helps to deal with the stress throughout the day, but then also stress right before I go to bed.
Man, I need some of that shit.
It works like a charm.
I've heard nothing but good stuff.
Get that.
I've never had it, but I've heard
my
only
life
good
is all
stuff.
everything's just stress.
And then on top of that, I also use phosphatidylserine, which is what's in cortisol, which is made by MPA. There's other products out there that have that. Phosphatidylserine at a dose of between 600 and 800 milligrams has clinically been shown to reduce stress. So you literally take that. I take it prior to training so that my training doesn't overstress my body, or on my non-training days, I'll take it prior to bed. So just those two combination have made a huge difference in how my body's dealt with stress from the prep. And then on top of that, your basic, covering all of your basic supplements that I'm doing. I mean, I'm taking vitamin C, vitamin D, CLA, a full vitamin complex. Trying to think of everything that I take in the morning.
Magnesium taurate,
CoQ10, L-carnitine. I mean, I'm taking way more over-the-counter shit than you could ever imagine. And on top of that, the other thing that I will tell you is my extracurricular supplements are actually lower than I've ever done in a prep. And I'm maintaining / building more muscle tissue than I ever have.
There's a lot of guys now saying that there's a lot of people doing more microdosing now.
Yeah.
Than actually.
Well, and it's understanding, and actually I was having a conversation with Dom about this, because what athletes don't understand is they think in their mind that more is always better. So when it comes down to it, they'll overdo it on the test. They'll overdo it on whatever supplement, Winstrol or whatever else they put on, right? Yep. And the issue is that you actually can literally see it in the way that somebody's muscle tissue and also their skin looks. When you're on super, super high amounts of drugs, what you'll end up seeing is
skin, kinda.
You'll have red skin, but you'll have inflammation. So you'll actually literally see like almost a watery layer below the skin tissue. Whereas everybody always talks about dick skin, like that's what you want to see when you're competing. That's typically from somebody that's super fucking healthy and doing this the right way. Because then you don't have any inflammation. You don't have that under the water or under the skin subcutaneous water layer that you'll see in somebody that's been pushing drugs super, super heavy. And the muscle tissue just has a different look. It's very grainy, very dry, and the skin itself looks a little bit different too. So you can always kind of pick out who's the bodybuilder that's been running the most when you look at a physique in person, because you'll notice it, because you can literally see the skin just has a different look to it than what somebody who's probably running, but not like overdoing the amount that they're doing, and also taking care of their health on the other aspects of this on this journey. So
yeah, I don't know a ton about it, but I just know that there's a lot of guys now, instead of say blasting like 3 times a week, they're pinning every day, but just at a lot smaller doses.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know enough about it to even probably bring it up, but microdosing, as there's new studies that you can use if you introduce it into your body every day, opposed to like say every other day or every third day, that you can use a lot less of the chemical and still get the same result.
Well, and it's different. There's different theories out there. So basically the idea would be, are you a person that believes in peaks and valleys, or are you a person that believes in a steady amount? Some will say that a steady amount, the issue with that is that your body will acclimate to it over time. And so therefore you have to take more. Whereas with a peak and a valley, like let's say you do
keep your body guessing, never gets used to it.
Yeah, you're allowing the body not to acclimate to the constant levels in your system. So that's kind of a give and a take. You don't necessarily. I think it's person dependent as to how they.
When
they
everybody's
feel like
body's going to react differently.
Correct.
Every single body.
But at the end of the day, I think the biggest lesson that needs to be taken away is more is not always better.
Less is more.
Yes.
Yep.
Just like training. I mean, there's a minimum effective dose. If you haven't trained in 5 years, don't go spend 3 hours in the gym.
Exactly.
Go do a couple sets of workouts and you're going to get better results because your body can recover. I would assume it's the same with drugs.
Yep. Same exact idea. And it's, and you know, the other aspect of that is in any circumstance, if your body is stressed out, then give it a fucking break. Mm-hmm. You're going to see more progress from giving your body, from backing off than pushing harder. The more you push your body into a hole, the more it's going to fight whatever you're trying to do. I need to
get one of those fucking rings and start looking at my HRV again.
Makes a difference.
I remember when I was training with you, I remember I was laying in bed one night, my heart rate was down in like the 50s. And my heart rate had never been that low. It was, when I started, it was always like 80 all the time. Yeah. And I like freaked me out. I remember I texted him. I was like, hey, man, my heart rate's down like 51. I was like, is this all right? He's like, yeah, no, that's good. That's what we want to see. I'm like, fuck. Am I going to die? Like, that's really fucking low.
Yeah.
You know? But that's where your body should be when it's not stressed.
Right. Yep.
What advice would you give to someone who is thinking about competing? Like we said, maybe they've been talking about it. Maybe they've just been thinking about it. They don't know what they're doing. Just what are practical tips could you give someone?
I would say, number one, get everything in line like we talked about. Number two, I would probably get a coach who is actually understands and knows what they're talking about. Do yourself a favor and research the coaches that you're thinking about working with. There are a ton of coaches out now. There are a ton of people that believe that they're coaches or qualified to be coaches that are not. And so make sure that you're finding somebody that actually has a good pedigree and actually has proven results. And the thing that I would tell you is this: look at their clients that they brought to the stage and then try to follow their clients and see where their clients are now 2 or 3 months after the stage.
It's great advice.
Yeah, it is.
Because that's going to tell you if they're a good coach or not. 90% of coaches will, from what I've seen, which is, 90% of coaches will diet somebody all the way down into a show. After the show, see you later.
Let them fall off.
Right.
Not reverse diet the right way.
2 or 3 months later, they're up 60 or 70 pounds. They've got hormonal issues. There's all sorts of bad shit that happens to their body. So you're going to be able to tell who's a good coach and who's not, or who actually cares. At the end of the day, really all it comes down to is actually fucking caring about people.
Right.
And so that's the thing that I would pay attention with that. And those would be honestly the two main things that I would tell you. Make sure your life's in line. Make sure you get a good coach that actually knows what the fuck they're doing.
And be lean enough. Don't be fucking 50 pounds.
I say just make sure you're ready, man. It
Yeah.
takes a lot more. I mean, hopefully you got it from this podcast, but it takes a lot more than I think the majority of people fucking realize. I mean, it's a lot to do this type of shit. It's one thing to go to the gym, go for a run and have some abs. You know what I mean?
And it's one thing to be lean in the gym.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lean people in the gym.
Yep.
But lean in the gym is not lean for a show.
Right.
No.
There are two completely different things. And that's what people don't understand. And you see it constantly because you'll go to a show. If you've ever been to a show, you'll go to a show and you'll be like, why the fuck is that guy on stage? Or why is that girl on stage? The thought that goes through my mind is God, I hope you didn't have a coach because that coach is an asshole, right? But it's one of those aspects to understand that competing is literally a whole nother level of lean than being in a gym and showing off a little veins.
I got a buddy of mine that always flashes his abs everywhere. And
I was just going to bring up.
Every time we get into it, I tell him, I'm like, dude, a skinny or a little dude with abs is just like a fat chick with big tits. It don't count.
It's true. It's true.
He gets so mad every time. But
I'm not hating on fat chicks with big tits.
I'm not either, but I'm just saying.
Fat chick with small
it's different.
tits.
You can be in the gym and look good and have abs, but getting on stage, that's a completely different physique than just being a skinny or smaller guy in the gym with abs.
Correct.
I had that conversation with who you're talking about at the lake last week. He's like, man, I think I'm like a week out. I could do this. And I was like, I know you think that, man.
Yeah.
Get on Instagram because you're going to see guys that are more diced than you, and they're going to say they're 8-9 weeks out.
Yeah.
Like that's the mentality you have to have. You're not ready to hop on a show because
It
you
takes
might
a lot.
next to like some fat guys at the lake, you look great. But once you're on stage with some killers, it's going to be blatantly obvious that
you're
you
gonna be
just
like,
did a week of prep.
What did I do?
Yeah.
And that's where having a good coach does come into effect. Because, I mean, if you have a coach that lets you do that.
Yeah. Well, and that goes to the same extent of, we had talked, one thing that we were going to talk about was national level shows. And are you ready to do a national level show? because people don't understand what the difference is.
Right.
Realistically, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to run over time that we're going.
No,
here.
you're good, man.
Realistically, the local shows, so it's different organizations, different things. So NANBF is different. That's the national organization. At a local show, you can get a pro status literally walking into the show. NPC is different. NPC is you have to qualify locally so that you can compete nationally. And so the way that works is the qualifications, actually, I think it is top 3. You have to place top 3 in an open class. Okay, so there's different classes.
Which is what you did last weekend because you took overall.
Yeah, so I won the open class, and then for bodybuilding, what they do is there's different weight classes. Each class you could do either novice, which is a first-time competitor, or open, which is somebody that's won probably one show previously or whatever it might be. And then each weight class has an open class. Whoever wins each one of those open classes then goes to the overall, and those weight class winners compete against each other to win the entire show. So what happened last week was I won the open heavyweight, and then I went against the super heavyweight, the light heavyweight, the middleweight.
And took the whole show.
And took the whole show.
Okay.
So that's what an overall means, right? And that goes for all classes. Which is great. But again, the conversation is just because the fact that you win a local level bodybuilding show does not mean that you are nationally ready. You might be nationally qualified. Great. You could be top 3 in an open class, which means you could place 3rd and you are nationally qualified. I'm proud of you. That's good. You did good. But guess what? If you're going to go to a national level show, like North Americans, what I'm going to do in 7 weeks here, the guys that go to that show that'll be in my weight class, every single one of them have won an overall, have won the entire show at their local level shows. And their local level shows might have been more competitive than your show that you won.
Yeah.
Right? So you're taking the best of the best from around the nation, somewhere between 15 and probably 25 competitors that have all won overalls and standing on stage next to each other to win one spot. And the way that North Americans works for bodybuilding is not only do you have to win the open, so you have to win your weight class.
Okay.
But then when you get to the overall, you have to place top 3 in the overall to become a pro. So you're going to have 6 or 7 different weight classes up there. Everybody looks nails. Everybody was the best in their division. Everybody was a top competitor.
So this show in 7 weeks, you have to win your class.
Yes.
And then you have to win at least top 3 of the overall of the whole show.
Correct.
Jesus.
To be a pro.
That's crazy.
And that's bodybuilding. Now, other classes, it's a lot easier. Bodybuilding that's the reason why bodybuilding is the hardest thing to become a pro in. But yes, you have to beat out somewhere between 15 and 20 of the best from across the nation. And then you have to go up against 7 of different weight classes of the best of the entire nation to win your pro card.
That's crazy.
So it's completely different than if we're talking different organizations. NANBF, it's a one-time shot. NPC, you've got guys that will compete at a national level for quite literally 10 to 15 years before they become a pro.
That's crazy.
So,
I think you're going to nail it, man.
I appreciate it.
You got a great physique. I mean, I thought you were ready for the national show last weekend from the pictures that I saw. So, I love having you on because then I get to look all tiny.
Yeah.
It's great.
I was going to say, I'm on the opposite end of the table from Nick, and that's not coincidence. I got one more question for you, though, man, because I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to get your pro card, whether it's in 7 weeks or not. You don't strike me as the kind of guy that's going to quit. So what's the next move after you get that? Are you going to just keep competing permanently, or is that just...
So this is a question that my wife brought up to me, too. I think the thing about it is I don't really know until I get there. I know the competitive side of me. So this is one of 2 options are going to happen. And this is how it's going to work in my brain is when I go there and place top 3, right? If I don't win my class, then I already know that the internal drive in me is going to say, fuck that. I'm going to do this for another year and I'm going to come back and win first place.
Yep.
Right. Because you're too fucking close. It's one of those things that it's like, I was right there. I can't fucking give up on something where I've literally proven that I can do this. Right. Now, the other opposite end of the spectrum is I go in, I win the show. I win in the overall, whether that's 1, 2, or 3 or whatever it might be. And I get my pro card. I also know internally that it's one of those things of like, I can't allow myself to become a pro and not compete on a pro stage at least one fucking time in my life. So do I see myself?
Either way, he's gonna keep it going.
Probably gonna happen.
Either way, he's gonna keep it going.
You know, the only thing that would probably deter me would be is if I go there and I place like out of the top 5, right? Then I'm like, okay, well, obviously I don't have the look that they're looking for. I'm not going to waste another 2 or 3 years of my life trying to put on enough muscle tissue to get to a point where they approve of my look and whatever, destroy my body in the process. And also put my family and my businesses on the back burner to get this goal that really does nothing else but just tote my own fucking ego, right?
That's not going to happen, man. I'm willing it in right here. I'm saying it right here on the podcast. At 7 weeks, Langer getting his pro card.
I appreciate that. So, yeah. So that would be that's kind of the mentality that I have. I mean, I think anybody that has listened to me or watches me understands that, like, I really don't like losing. That's not really my thing.
Me neither.
And so, you know, I know that if I get like within that area that it's like you just need a little bit more to be undeniable, then it's like, fuck, all right, fine, let's go back to it. You know what I mean?
I like it, man. Where can people find your documentary?
So it's actually on my YouTube. It should be, my brain's slipping right now. I'm pretty sure it's just under Nick Langer.
Yeah, I put in Nick Langer and it comes up.
Yep. So that it'd be on my YouTube.
Search Nick Langer, documentary about his whole prep.
Free documentary, so you guys can watch literally every week. We update it every Friday at 5 p.m. And it's literally just a walkthrough of not only the bodybuilding prep, but also the life that I live, the family that I have. I let people in a lot more than I have ever really wanted to. But that was part of the process as well. So
I love those. Man, yeah, it's about how can a guy do this and still have a family life, still be a husband, still be a father. The support around you is great. I mean, it's honestly a great documentary.
And they're only 10 minutes, so I like to put them on while I'm having my pre-workout before I get to the gym. Just get me in the right headspace of like, all right, I'm going to go kill this. It's not like, all right, this is an hour commitment. When can I find time to watch this? It's a part of my routine now.
And they drop a new one every week, so it's nice. Yeah. So, yeah, guys, check that out. Nick Langer on YouTube. Make sure to give him a subscribe, too.
Appreciate it.
Baby Rhino or BR Physiques on Instagram.
BR Physiques on Instagram, yep. And
awesome.
On my Instagram, I also have a link tree right to YouTube. So perfect. Just click right there.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Dads Who Lift podcast, guys. We do this stuff for free, so we would appreciate a like, share, subscribe as well, so we can keep doing it. If you got anything educational out of this, a laugh, anything at all, any type of value that we added, which, come on, fuck, you had to have. There's all kinds of shit in this podcast. It's a great podcast. So please give us a like, share, subscribe on YouTube. We really appreciate it. We're on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes. I always forget. But we're on all the major formats, and they're all on our website, www.dadswholiftofficial.com. All the formats for the podcast are on there. We also have apparel for Dads Who Lift on the website as well. We're on IG, Dads Who Lift Official. We're on Facebook, Dads Who Lift Podcast. Then we also have a group of called Dads Who Lift on Facebook. It's an actual Facebook group of 30,000 like-minded guys. Just trying to be fit, trying to be best versions of themselves, trying to be best fathers they can be. So if that's something that works for you, trying to show their wife's titties and asses. Jesus, because trying to show their wife's titties and asses, that's another thing. But if that's something that works for you, check that out as well. And we appreciate you tuning in. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
It's like forever, no surrender. It's forever, this like forever. I make it dead and alive, dead and alive. I make it dead and alive, dead and alive. I make it dead and alive, dead and alive, Making sure that you know why.